Um, all of our worlds have changed in the past few weeks. And now that we're working virtually and we have to rethink our business models, our strategies, our product and services offerings, I'd like to talk you through a couple of pointers that you might find helpful when it comes to knowledge creation. Because all of these business models, products or services or new policies might be regarded to be the outcome of knowledge creation. And I'd like to focus particularly on knowledge creation between clients and consultants, as this might pose different challenges with respect to knowledge creation by a team that consists entirely of people from one and the same company. And the things that I'd like to discuss briefly with you are, first of all, the knowledge context. And by that I mean what type of knowledge, what knowledge is needed, what is it needed for, and what's the company that it will be used in, or the organization, of course. Second, it's important to think about who are the people around the table, or in the telephone, in the laptop, in the virtual meeting, their identities and how these might affect the process that you're in. Third, it's important to think about the agreements that you will close with each other and that fit the type of project that you're working on. Fourth, this may sound as an absolute no-brainer, but I'll show you why I think it's so important. Be prepared, because preparation is half the work. It's often said, but I truly think it is. And fifth, there's a particular process that you might find helpful when it comes to knowledge creation, and I'll talk you through the different steps. Project definition. What is the desired outcome? Why is it needed? And what is the context that it will be used in? So what is the outcome of the knowledge creation project that you're looking for? Are you looking for a new strategy? Are you looking for new working policies, for new products or service offerings, a new business model? Make sure that everyone involved knows what you're heading towards. And also why this is so important to you. Why do you need this business model or this product service offering? Is it for your long-term innovation, your long-term survival of the company, or is it to show to the market that you are constantly innovating? These are different purposes, and these might lead to different outcomes of your process. So make sure that everybody knows what you're aiming for and in what context it will be used. And also be honest with yourself. If you come up with new working policies, but you find that your colleagues and you yourself who will have to work with these might have difficulties unlearning how you currently work, it's important to anticipate. And you have to think whether or not working policies are required for the purpose that you strive for. And in this sense, we might have an upside on the situation that we're currently in, because as it's been said quite often the past few weeks, never waste a good crisis. These crises that everybody faces right now also gives a positive push towards change. So it might be helpful for your project. So that was your project definition. What do you need? Why do you need it? And what is the context it's used in? And second, it's important to consider who are the people that you're working with, including yourself. And when it comes to clients and consultants, you have to think about people's individual identities. What is their individual personalities, knowledge, expertise that they bring to the table, but also their social identities. When people are working within one and the same organization, there is a joint social identity. When you are working with people from different organizations, or at least you hope there's a joint social identity, but when it comes to people from different organizations, they might have different social identities. The client organization, the consultant organization might have different values, different norms that people also are familiar with and adhere to. And then there's the group identification, the group identity. As a project team, you are a group in itself, and you have agreements, and you have values, you have norms. So you have at least 3 different identities that you bring to the table. And it's important to understand if there's sufficient alignment between the 3. Because if I work with people who have a misalignment in the different identities, they might, for instance, be torn between different loyalties that they have. So try to figure out if the people that you work with have identities that at least do not show misalignment on the really important issues. Third, think about the type of agreement that you're closing. And this is still the pre-phase, basically, one could say, of your project, or the definition phase. Because we've talked about the project context, the what do you need, why do you need it, and in what context will it be used. We've talked about who do you need and who is around the table, what type of identities do you bring to the table. And now we're in the third point, what is the type of agreement? When it comes to new strategies, business models, products, it might be difficult to predict how much time or effort it will take to conceive these. So do you want to agree upon an end result and close your contracts based on the desired end result? Or do you want to close an agreement based on the amount of time and effort that's put into this project? Think about it. Fourth one, I already said at the start, this might come as a no-brainer, but be prepared. And be prepared entails different things. For instance, ensure that you have shared facilities. I have worked on many projects where people wanted me to start right away and didn't have any shared facilities in place. And that is such a waste of time and effort, because then it's really difficult to communicate, and you're putting up a hurdle at the start of your project. So make sure that you have shared facilities. And in this time that we're currently in, make sure that you have a team environment, a virtual team environment, but also agree on what this is used for, how often it's used, and set your limits. Agree upon times where you will not be in the rooms. And why is this important? It's not only important to ensure your own work-life balance, of course, but it's also important because sharing facilities might help you form your group identity. It might help you feel the project team spirit. But if you're in there too often, you might feel too familiar and sympathize too much with each other and lose a critical attitude. And particularly when you're in knowledge creation processes, that critical attitude is really important. So yes, it's important to feel engaged, involved, committed toward each other. But it's also important to have to still maintain a certain distance. And you have to balance the two. So even if you're in virtual team environments, make agreements about how these will be used, when you will meet, but also when not. So that's one part of the preparation. The other part is be aware of the fact that there are insiders and outsiders. And let me explain a little bit about that. When you are with a project group, you're often a project group within a larger organization. Then you, as a project team, are insiders within the larger organization of outsiders. And we can also have insiders within the project team. For instance, if I work with a client with whom I've worked before, and the project team is larger and there are people in there who have never worked with either one of us, my client and I might be insiders with each other, and the other people might feel as if they are outsiders, which might affect the type of group formation or identity or commitment that they feel. So think about that. Do you have any insiders within your own group? And if so, how will you handle that? How will you ensure that everybody feels an insider? And also think about the outsiders outside of your project group. and how they can be involved more often, because I've studied knowledge creation processes, and what I've seen is that outsiders might feel tempted to want to exert influence, particularly if they know that they will have to work with the outcome of your project. They want to have influence, they want to be involved, and this might affect your knowledge creation process. So it's important to, it might also contribute to it, by the way. So be sure to manage your insider-outsider perspectives, and think about your, and a very easy way to do that is think about the different stakeholders that you have. Make a stakeholder mapping, write down who will, or draw a sketch, whatever, who are your most important stakeholders, how will this project outcome benefit them or affect them, what is the type of influence that they might exert. They might have expertise that they want to push into your project. They might be in a position that they can offer rewards or punishment, as it's referred to in scientific literature, meaning that if one of your outsiders is higher management, they might determine whether or not the outcome of your project is actually adopted or not. If they are employees who have to work with it and these employees disagree with the outcome, you have nothing to work with. So then there's influence that they can exert. And it's important in your preparation phase to think about who are the different stakeholders, what are their interests, what is their potential input, but also their potential influence, and how can I match this? Who do I have in my project team that can interact in the correct manner with these stakeholders, and how often do they do that? So that's important when it comes to be prepared. Then the fifth part is the process itself, the knowledge creation process. Studies have shown that there are 5 important steps in a knowledge creation process. The first one we're probably all familiar with, which is basically sharing your ideas. And that might be in a brainstorm session or something else, but make sure that you have a conversation in which you share ideas, or a virtual meeting in which you share ideas. The second one is, there's this point where you come to a joint basis. You have a sketch, you have a drawing, you have a presentation or a storyline that incorporates most of the input from the first round that you all agreed upon, and you have a certain basis. Then this basis is the starting point of the next discussions. You discuss about this basis, you add to it, you change it, you adapt it, you discuss it with other people. And then the fourth part is that you have internalized all of this so much that you can shove it aside. It's no longer needed because everybody feels engaged and committed and equipped to work with it. And then the fifth part is, and that's often overlooked, engage. Continue to engage people, sustain engagement. And what do I mean by that? Quite often people think the project is finished once the outcomes are there. But basically it only starts, because then people start to work with the outcomes, and it's important that you continue to involve everyone who was part of the project team. For instance, if you've discussed with all the employees the new strategy that you've worked on as a project team, it's important to give the feedback to the project team members. Say, oh, I shared the new strategy and people were so enthusiastic and they had really great ideas and wanted to work with it. That type of engagement helps you to continue to be insiders, a project team. And this feeling might give you a head start for new knowledge creation projects. Before I wrap up, I'll summarize again. So the first point that's really important in knowledge creation is the project definition. What do you need? Why do you need it? And what's the context that it will be used in? The second part is, who are the people around the table? What are the different identities that they bring to the table? And is there sufficient alignment? The third part is the type of agreement that you close. Does it fit the type of project that you're working on? The fourth part, be prepared. Ensure that there are shared facilities. Think about insiders, outsiders, stakeholder mapping, and the type of influence that they can use. And the fifth part is the knowledge creation process steps. First of all, share ideas. Second is build a joint basis that incorporates most of these ideas. The third is discuss this joint basis. The fourth is, once this is internalized and so on, work with it. And the fifth, never to forget, is continue to engage your project team members. And then there's this bonus point, evaluate. Evaluate the entire process, because this helps you to become better and work smarter when it comes to knowledge creation. Good luck!